And then as far as the other types of oils, like buying an oil to cook with, you know, opting for oils that are really from, again, from plants. Okay, so like a safflower oil, a corn oil, because they have the better, what are called unsaturated fats, and there's a monounsaturated and a polyunsaturated fat. So there's 3 types altogether: saturated, mono, unsaturated, and polyunsaturated. And those 2 unsaturateds are the ones that you want to try to get the most of. Okay, and we need somewhere, I think it's like 25% of our diet, something like that. Okay, it needs to be from fats, but we want the good fats. So you mentioned the types. We want the better fats, because again, those are the ones that aren't correlated with, you know, the medical problems of the.
And trans fat?
Trans fat is the saturated fat. Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I read the labels, it's totally different wording.
Yeah.
You hear sometimes, so it's hard to interpret.
Yeah, I know there's the 3 types, and I know trans fat, and I don't know so much about the name, but that qualifies as a bad fat. That would be the saturated one, and that's like your fried, you know, your fried foods and your fried.
All the good stuff.
Well, from what I've heard, it's like the pretend fats, like short.
So, you know what? Also, the bad fats are solid. They will be ones that will be solid when you have them at room temperature. So lard, that's like, you know, that's kind of the one that comes, where the other ones that are liquid form at room temperature are not as bad. So definitely eliminating, which people used to use lard in short, you know, quite a bit. So, and again, we don't want to entirely eliminate fat because you need that for functioning for the body, but we eat far too much of it. It's in a lot of foods, and especially processed foods have a lot of it. They have a lot of you know, fat and a lot of salt. We don't eat that much salt either. We eat a lot of salt. Okay, we're going to shift gears here to safety now. And what can a parent do? Okay, and obviously there's no environment that's 100% child-proof. That accidents still will happen and do happen anywhere, everywhere. However, that doesn't mean there's certain precautions that a parent can't put in place. There's certain things that they can do. They can assess the environment, and certain things they can control for just to eliminate the risk, or reduce the risk, I should say. There will still actually be accidents, but as far as a child toppling out a window, you know, or, you know, falling from something high, or having a bookcase fall on their head, you know, there's things that we can do that would prevent these things from happening. Okay, but again, it's being able to assess, and then what can they do to prevent an accident from happening in that particular environment. So, what I'd like all of you to do is, and you can just do this in groups together, but I want you to think of the multitude of objects. And just think in the home, in the household. If you're a parent and you're having to assess for safety in the house, what are considerations that you need to take into account? Okay, and again, we're probably not going to have an all-exclusive list. I don't know if we could ever get to that. There's many different households. There's, you know, apartments, and there's, you know, one-bedroom flats, and there's people that have stairs, all of that, people that have decks and things like that. So there's a lot of different considerations. But just thinking kind of as comprehensive as you can, what would be some actions that you could do to make that environment as safe as possible? So there might be more general considerations that you can apply across households. Okay. So things to think about are, you know, some of the activities too that we are doing with our children, like bathing them, clothes that we choose to put on them, furniture about the house, electrical outlets and cords, windows, and also the toys that we give them to play with. Okay. So why don't you work on that for about 15 minutes or so, maybe just sooner, and you could probably come up with stuff pretty quick. Okay, so we need to resume. You were in your groups and you were thinking about safety concerns at home. making a list of different actions you could put in place to, of course, not totally eliminate, that would be great, but at least reduce the risk of injury in the household, right? So if you could resume and get focused on that again. It's funny because I was thinking safety issues at camp.
I heard it!
Yes.
Don't ride your bike down the hill. Down the hill.
Over here?
Yeah, I know what chill you're talking about. That's a killer. Okay, so if you could take maybe, I don't know, we'll see how much time you guys need, but I don't want to go past 10 minutes, and then we could start going through the slides, and I could see what you came up with. So how are you guys doing on your list?
Great.
Are you getting overwhelmed because it's just can go on and you can spend days probably at it? Okay, and I know it's going to take some time. I just want to get you to think about it. And the thing is, we want our parents to be able to, assess the environment and then also take whatever precautions they're able to take. Again, we aren't going to totally eliminate any accidents from happening, but we want to reduce the risk as much as humanly possible. Well, what I'm going to do, because I do have a number of slides in key areas, okay, and then I'm going to be talking towards the end about, as far as statistically, what we're seeing as far as injuries. What are the most common childhood injuries and accidents? And as far as childhood deaths related to injuries, what are the most common that we're seeing in at certain ages? So you guys have an idea as to what's really important to know about. So what I'll do is kind of go through different categories. If you have more to add that's not on here, that would be great. Okay, just throw it out there. Bathing safety. Okay, definitely want to make sure that parents understand that they cannot leave the child unattended at any time. Okay, so it's going to be important for them to have what they need nearby. Definitely they want to have mats there to prevent from slips and falls and injuries that could be head or other types of injuries. And some parents actually put covers on the metal spouts, and on the knobs as well. Anything else as far as bathing that you guys could think of here? Yeah.
Make sure the water's tepid, it's not too hot.
Right. And burns are huge as far as accidental injuries, and we're going to have a slide on burns related to that, but yes. Okay, so definitely not just putting them in without even testing the water, right? Okay.
You're so cool.
So again, as we go through these, if you have others you want to put out here. Crib safety is a big issue. Actually, there's been a number of cribs in the past that have been recalled because unfortunately a child was either killed or injured, using a crib that didn't meet the requirements, or actually we didn't have a requirement in place at the time, and now of course we do. So things as far as crib safety, recommended that infants be put to sleep on their backs. And why is that?
So they don't smother.
Because of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. Although for some time we didn't know what caused that, but definitely there's a high correlation in terms of when infants are sleeping on their stomach versus on their back. So there was a whole marketing campaign within the last, it seems like 10, 15 years regarding making sure you put infants to sleep on their backs. Okay, so we're trying to get the word out to parents on that. Again, to eliminate or at least reduce the risk of SIDS. Keeping the crib empty of toys when the child is sleeping. Okay, again, suffocation is a big issue, especially for children under 1. Okay, so making sure, I didn't put it on here in terms of blankets, but if you have a lot of loose blankets and it could be, as they're moving, it becomes kind of tangled around them and it covers them and covers their face and covers their nose and mouth. We really don't need to have all of those, blankets necessarily in there with them. If you do put a blanket, they recommend that you really make sure it's secure and tucked in. It's not just kind of loose laying on them. Using a firm mattress, again, suffocation issues, so pediatricians recommend using a firm mattress. One-piece outfits, snug fitting, no strings. A lot of them have those strings and things at the bottom. Strangulation, okay, it happens with infants. And crib bumpers, again, a suffocation issue if they're too close to the crib bumper and it's blocking their airway. Okay. Anything else you could think of here? I actually have another slide on crib safety.
I was gonna say, where you put the crib, I mean, you know, things like blinds with the things hanging down, you know, if the child's able to.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, so placement of the crib considered, and actually the way, as far as educating parents, we tell them you want to have a safety zone around the crib. So there's not things they could pull on, blind cords, or even next to a window, or something that could topple over. So a safety zone around the crib. As the child grows, reminding parents you need to lower that mattress as they grow, because the height, to compensate for the height. Also, there's specific crib requirements, you know, federal guidelines for cribs regarding how the mattress, how tightly that mattress should fit. There should not be more than what they call a 2-finger rule. If you can fit more than 2 fingers on the side as far as a gap, that could be dangerous. Okay, so you want to really check it for gaps that are larger than that. Also, the slats as well, making sure that the slats meet federal requirements. If you're using a borrowed crib or one that's used, making sure that it works properly. And drop side rails have been recalled, okay, because children have been hurt, and I think some deaths really as a result of that, because they didn't work properly and they came down. And the child either fell out and was injured, okay, or got hit with the rail. So those have been recalled.
What are they using now instead? That's my question. Because if you have a full rail, how do you put that baby in there?
I think they're just, it's
Stupid.
it's just the rail, and you have to lift them up, yeah. And even what I didn't put on here, but I know even some of the cribs early on, the real pretty ones with the finials, they had recalled those at one time. Because again, if they have strings or ribbons and it somehow gets caught on the finial, they can choke. And then as far as transitioning from the crib to the bed, recommended moving child to bed when 35 inches long, although some people might do that sooner, but that's recommended as far as length. Making sure that when you do put them in a bed that you're able to put one of the side rails, okay, to prevent rolling out of the bed and head injury, right, falling off the bed. And even so, still putting some padding on the floor. Okay, again, you want to make sure the rail is working properly. And as an alternative to a regular bed, placing crib mattress on the floor, again with something around the side. Okay. Burns. Okay, a lot of things that can cause burns, again, which are very preventable. So hopefully you got some of these ones, because I heard some of you talking. I overheard, latches on the cupboards and things. So you may have not thought of a secure oven door with appliance latch.
We had that.
Okay. Turning the pot handles to back of the stove. I remember my mom reminding me of that constantly, because you can easily walk by and just hit the pot handle, and if you have a child there, and scorch the child. Do not carry your child. So you're making dinner, and you're right above the stove, mixing up that hot cereal, right? Okay. Keeping hot food, drink away from the edges of tables. So your coffee and the like, things that could be pulled, particularly if you have a placemat under them, and they could easily pull that. And we had mentioned the water in the tub, making sure that it's more of a tepid temperature, and that you are at least, in fact, checking it before you just pop them in there.